at the website below.
Now at 5, we look at some of the damage from last night's storms, including a couple of tornadoes.
A new at-home treatment could help reduce the number of COVID cases in hospitals nationwide. I'm Skylar Henry in Washington with the details and the latest on getting kids vaccinated.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
A couple of tornadoes touched down in the 4-state area during last night's storms. This is KOAM News at 5. We're going to have information on damages soon, but we first turn to meteorologist Nick Kelly. Nick.
Thankfully, we've been staying much quieter ever since we got the last of the storms out of here this morning, Jordan. We're looking a lot brighter as advertised, mostly sunny skies. What we're seeing from the entire northern horizon from the 7th and range line from the east side of Joplin. The radar network, it is completely dry. It's getting a break in the action after we had to deal with this storm system. The backside of it finally moved on out. It cleared the rest of the cloud cover out of here this morning, but it's trying to cause some severe weather up in northern parts of Illinois. But we're keeping quiet for this evening and for tonight. A nice change of pace after last night and early this morning. A few spots near Stockton Lake trying to sit near 60 degrees still, but most of us are in the lower to middle 70s. So that was a good rebound after we had a couple of I was showing the wrong graphic here, Jordan. I apologize for that. But we'll keep things quiet for the evening. Overnight lows here will drop back into the 50s tonight, but unfortunately, I'm seeing more rain chances in the forecast. We'll break that down here in a bit.
All right, Nick Kelly, thank you. A confirmed tornado touchdown in northeastern Jasper County. This one came from a storm just before 5 this morning. The National Weather Service confirms an EF0 tornado touchdown in the area of Sumac Road and County Road 40. The tornado nearly paralleled County Road 40 heading north where it lifted near Barton County Boulevard. The tornado caused damage to trees, as we're seeing right there along its path, also knocked down irrigation systems and destroyed an outbuilding at a home along Barton County Boulevard.
The storm certainly could have been worse, and as far as tornadoes go, I guess maybe this was one that we will find acceptable in terms of damage. The thing to remember so many times about these particular storms is to be prepared, to know what is coming.
Tonight at 6, we're going to have more on this storm and the other storm that produced a possible tornado in Newton County as they rolled through the area overnight. Dozens of 4-staters were without power at some point during the storms, but that is largely not the case anymore, thankfully. Utility companies in our area only report a handful of outages at this time. This is a look at the outage map for Evergy, which reports 2 outages affecting fewer than 5 customers. Well, a new report says 1 in 4 pieces of critical infrastructure here in the U.S. face substantial risk of being rendered inoperable by flooding. The report was prepared by the First Street Foundation, a nonprofit research and technology group. It considers critical infrastructure to include police and fire stations, hospitals, airports, and wastewater treatment facilities. The study also found that 23% of the roads here in the U.S. are at risk of becoming impossible to pass because of flooding. The most at-risk regions of the U.S. are in Louisiana and Florida. We could be just weeks away now from having the first FDA-approved coronavirus treatment that patients can receive at home. Reporter Skylar Henry has more details now from Capitol Hill.
Merck has asked the FDA for an emergency use authorization for the first pill to treat COVID after clinical trials showed it helped save lives.
Dramatically, by 50%, reduce hospitalization and death. So an oral pill that works against COVID-19 hospitalization.
Current treatments such as Regeneron require patients to receive infusions. The Merck drug could be given at home, relieving the crush of COVID cases in hospitals.
As soon as it's FDA approved, we can start to prescribe it to patients rather than them having to come into an emergency room and be given intravenous therapy of an antibody or a shot of an antibody. They can get a pill.
Health officials say the new COVID treatment is exciting, but they say the best measure against COVID is still for people to get vaccinated.
We still have around 68 million people who are eligible to be vaccinated that have not yet gotten vaccinated.
Vaccine hesitancy is even greater among parents, debating whether their children should get the vaccine if the FDA approves it for kids 5 to 11. A new CBS News poll shows 35% of parents surveyed say they will not let their children get the vaccine. 26% are unsure.
I think there's a lot of information available. It certainly makes me confident about vaccinating my kids. And for those parents who still have a lot of questions, I would urge them to have a discussion with their pediatrician about the pros and cons of vaccination.
Politics is one of the key factors in whether parents will vaccinate their children, with 61% of Democrats saying yes and 56% of Republican parents saying no. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
FDA is going to meet 2 weeks from tomorrow to discuss whether to approve the vaccine for children. Meanwhile, the government has already ordered enough of the Merck pills to treat 1.7 million Americans and will distribute them to the states if the FDA approves its use. Sydney, Australia is emerging from COVID lockdowns. Fully vaccinated residents can now go to pubs, gyms, restaurants, and shops. More than 5 million people have been in strict lockdown since June, but officials lifted measures after hitting a 70% vaccination rate. The Premier of New South Wales says if everyone does their part, they can open up even more. Thousands of people in Poland took to the streets yesterday to defend their attachment to the European Union. The protests came after a decision by Poland's Constitutional Court last week challenging the primacy of European law. The country's conservative prime minister welcomed the decision, but some believe it could be a first step toward Poland exiting the EU. Still ahead, the real estate market continues to climb.
Skyrocketing home prices started coming down to earth this summer, but are climbing once again. I'm Naomi Ruckham with what that means for home buyers.
And next to Healthwatch, how new technology could help track the mental health of healthcare workers.
Winter is right around.
Topping today's Healthwatch, the COVID-19 pandemic has taken a toll on mental health. The first global estimate published in The Lancet shows depressive disorders surged by 28% last year. That's more than 50 million new cases. Anxiety disorders increased 26%. Women and younger people were the most affected, particularly in countries with major lockdowns. Healthcare workers have been fighting the COVID pandemic on the front lines for more than a year and a half, and now we're learning the mental toll it's taking on them. Reporter Michael George shows us how a new study uses technology to monitor stress among doctors and nurses.
Dr. James Marion is a gastroenterologist, but when the first wave of COVID devastated New York, he was asked to help the sickest patients.
They wanted me to run a 14-bed COVID unit. The hospital was filling up pretty rapidly.
He was one of thousands of healthcare workers coping with stress of long hours, PPE shortages, and the worry of catching COVID.
I think my biggest fear was that I'd bring it home to my family.
So this is interesting in the study.
Doctors Robert Hurton and Zahi Fayyad at Mount Sinai are studying the psychological effects of the pandemic on frontline healthcare workers in what they call the Warrior Watch study. Doctors and nurses wear Apple Watches to monitor their heart rate and fill out surveys to measure stress, resilience, emotional support, and quality of life.
Healthcare workers we're finding have increasing rates of burnout, anxiety, are at risk of developing post-traumatic stress disorder, and have ongoing long-term effects from the stress.
They also found healthcare workers who could overcome stress and had strong emotional support were protected.
There are multiple ways you could build resilience. It all relates to lifestyle, your exercise, improve your sleep patterns, and learn how to do breathing exercises to be able to deal with things when they come to face you.
Dr. Marion took part in the research and says he's motivated to improve his mental and physical health.
It has totally changed my relationship with exercise and with staying fit. I was running before, but now I'm doing pacing, I'm doing interval training.
And that's helping his body and mind. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Researchers also say the study highlights that wearable devices like the Apple Watch could be used to monitor and catch other health issues early. Pregnant women infected with COVID may face a greater risk of complications. A study in Israel tracking more than 2,000 women found those with symptomatic COVID were more likely to experience gestational diabetes and heavier bleeding during delivery. Also, their babies were at a higher risk of respiratory complications. Acupuncture may work to reduce both pain and opioid use after a total knee replacement. A study at Weill Cornell Medicine found that 65% of patients who received acupuncture during surgery then needed only low-dose painkillers, even none at all sometimes. That is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, Southwest Airlines canceling more flights today after several disruptions over the weekend.
But first, we're all getting a chance to dry out from our last bout of rain and storms, but more rain chances are lining up. Forecast next.
Jewish.
It's nice to certainly see things calm down after we had to deal with 2 bouts of strong to severe thunderstorms late last night and especially earlier this morning, all because of an oppressive storm system that finally the backside of it has cleared on now. So we spent the entire day after the morning bout of rain and storms clearing things out and certainly looking a lot brighter. But these storms, they certainly packed quite a punch. Not only did they drop a confirmed tornado south of Jay in Delaware County late last night, it dropped an EF1 tornado just outside of Neosho to the west of 49 and another EF0 tornado with the second batch that pushed on through. That was around Golden City and Dudenville before the 5 o'clock hour this morning. But the bigger impact in terms of what most of us saw, a lot of rain, 1.5 inches on the average, but we see the rain amounts easily range between 1/2 inch to almost 2.5 inches of rain. But again, it's worth stressing after what we had to deal with last night and this morning. It is nice to see clearing skies on the Skywatch storm tracker and nothing on the radar network. But we're not quite done, sadly, with rain and thunderstorm chances just yet. We'll get to what's coming in a bit, but looking beautiful from the 7th and range line. Plenty of sunshine up top. 70 and dropping with west wind at 13 behind our last storm system, and the humidity not too bad either, sitting at 46%. Most of us are in the lower to middle 70s, but still where the cloud cover is just beginning to clear out, we still have some areas near Stockton Lake and our northeastern counties still trying to see temperatures in the 60s to get this evening going. But eventually we'll have everybody fall through the 60s down to the upper 50s by 10 o'clock. It's going to be a chilly start in the morning with lows mainly in the lower 50s across the entire region. So let's broaden the view out. Let's see where our last storm system is. And I think we don't have to look too far. In fact, it's prompting more severe weather with severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado watches for central and northern parts of Illinois. That part of the storm system's done. But another cold front is lining up to our north and west. And not only that, another potent upper level low getting its act together out over the state of Nevada. So that's the next system on the way. But we don't have anything to worry about for the rest of the night. Even with partly cloudy skies trying to sneak back in during the overnight, we keep things dry. But it will be chilly, so the jackets are a must before you head out the door in the morning with lows near 53. Partly sunny skies in the afternoon, and ahead of our next approaching storm system, maybe a couple of isolated thunderstorms in our far western and southwestern counties during the afternoon, late, but we're looking okay temperature-wise. 53 in the morning, 74 by noon, and a high topping out around 79. We'll watch for some isolated storms on the Kansas side, mainly for your Tuesday evening. But come Wednesday, here comes that next cold front with a line of storms wanting to roll on in. I really think the bulk of the severe weather with that next system is going to stay out in central and western Kansas, but you can see how we have a low severe threat clipping our very far western counties during the early morning hours. So we'll keep an eye on that line as it rolls on in for any high wind threat and maybe some heavy rain along the way as well. But with that system, we'll have highs dropping back to 76 on Wednesday, 75 on Thursday, and after one last push of rain on Friday, Jordan, we'll have a high of 66 early in the day, then dropping throughout the afternoon. That's setting us up for a pretty good weekend. Mostly sunny skies, 66 on Saturday and highs near 72 on Sunday.
Yeah, the winds this morning in the Joplin area were impressive.
Yeah, what do you really need underneath any storms or not? They were really booking earlier today.
All right, Nick Kelly, thank you so much as always. The volcano on La Palma, with its fountains of lava, as we're seeing right there, and rivers of molten rock, is drawing people to Spain's Canary Islands from around the world. The weeks-long eruption has grounded many flights, so tourists are flocking by ferry. Scientists do predict the eruption could last for months. Coming up, housing prices are climbing again after a summer slowdown. But first, we honor a local veteran. Dwayne Hebner served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War. The Joplin native was stationed in Korea, received a Purple Heart. We are proud to thank and salute Sergeant First Class Dwayne Hebner. He's this evening's four-state hero. To learn more about all of our four-state heroes, or if you'd like to submit your own, please do that. You can go to our website, koamnewsnow.com.
Doug Henny has earned the
Topping today's Consumer Watch, another day of cancellations for Southwest Airlines. The airline has canceled 337 flights today. That amounts to 1 in every 10 flights. That's according to flight tracking website FlightAware. This comes after a frustrating few days for travelers. Southwest canceled more than 2,000 flights over the weekend, leaving passengers, planes, and crews stranded across the country. The company says the scheduling mess started Friday with weather in Florida and air traffic control issues in the region. A group of 136 developed countries have agreed on a global corporate minimum tax rate of 15%. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development announced the breakthrough after years of disagreement. The nations agreed not to increase the rate later on. The tax would apply to companies with more than $864 million. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said she's confident Congress is going to approve the new rate. Well, the real estate market took off during the pandemic, and it doesn't look like that is changing much. Reporter Naomi Ruckham explains.
California couple Joop Spork and Sarah Von Slockmott's search for a home came with challenges. There were limited options in their price range, and 2 offers they made were turned down. But after months of looking, the third time was a charm. They bought this small 2-bedroom.
We feel like we were very, very lucky that our third offer got accepted, because we've heard stories from friends that they took way longer than we did.
The red-hot real estate market cooled a little this summer, but is still sizzling. The latest numbers show pending home sales rose more than 8% in August compared with July.
We still have a very hot market.
And CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says that continues to drive home prices up nearly 15% from a year ago. The median price for an existing home is $356,000.
The vast majority of homes are selling in less than a month. And this has really been tough on people who are entering the housing market because the affordability has really changed.
I think sooner or later people give up. And they just say it's not for me.
Bruce McNeilage has a solution for frustrated buyers. His company develops rental communities in Tennessee, giving people who can't afford to buy a home the opportunity to rent a traditional house.
The pandemic has been the best thing for our business because people aren't buying, so they're renting.
It may be an attractive model because experts forecast home prices could continue to rise. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
More bad news for potential home buyers. Mortgage rates have been on the rise recently. Gas prices have nearly doubled in the past 17 months. The national average price for gasoline hit a 7-year high today. AAA reporting the average for unleaded is $3.27 a gallon, up 7 cents in the past week alone. Prices at the pump are not the only thing skyrocketing. Natural gas prices are also up, and today crude was on track to finish above $80 a barrel for the first time in 7 years. Well, new controls are coming to Facebook. This after a whistleblower said the platform harms teenagers. The social media platform says the features will prompt teens using Instagram to take a break and also nudge them from looking at content that could hurt their well-being. Facebook is also planning to introduce new controls on an optional basis for parents to supervise what their teens are doing online. Final check of the forecast next. CBS Evening News is next, then on KOAM News at 6. We're going to have more on the damage from last night's storms and the cleanup efforts now underway. Plus, students in Grove, Oklahoma got a lesson on Native Americans to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. And Joplin Police released the names of 2 people who are the subjects of a death investigation. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. All right, things are hopping over at the Sunset Zoo in Manhattan, Kansas. Look at that little guy. Workers there are welcoming the addition of a rare albino wallaby named Bruni after an island off Tasmania, home to about 200 of the melanin-challenged marsupials. The wallaby only recently emerged from its mother's pouch months after being born. Zoo officials still don't know whether Bruni, though, is a boy or girl. So I'm just going to say, Bruni, you're cute. No matter what.
Yeah, that sounds safe to say.
Yeah, isn't it? Oh,
yeah.
Kangaroos and koalas are my favorites. Final look at the forecast, Nick.
Yeah, thankfully nothing to worry about for tonight. We're keeping it as quiet as can be. 79 for tomorrow, maybe a few isolated storms west of Joplin during the afternoon, but our next best chance for storms, like it or not, Jordan, wants to come in late Tuesday night and into Wednesday with highs through 76. We'll touch base on that and another fresh look at the forecast coming up at 6.
Thanks so much for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. See you at 6.